So an important part of the application is obviously the recommendations. So how should applicants think about who to ask to be the recommenders?
Sure. I always think in terms of two dimensions. I think about recency and proximity. For recency, you want to ask someone who knows you now, who's able to speak to your most current experience and how you bring yourself to work each day. And so the more recent you can get to your current role, I think the better. And then proximity. So someone who knows you well, not someone who you interact with every once in a while, but ideally someone who's been in a supervisory capacity, who's been responsible for thinking about your development and where your challenges lie, your opportunities, your strengths, and is able to speak to that in a really meaningful way.
Yeah. Obviously, Yale SOM has a very global applicant pool. What do you do as an applicant if your preferred recommender doesn't speak English very well?
Sure. So rest assured, we are not evaluating a recommender's English language ability. We understand that our applicants are working all over the globe. And the most important thing is that you ask someone to represent you in your recommendations who you feel comfortable is going to do that in the best way possible. So rather than limit yourself to somebody whose English is perfect, we do require that our letters be written in English, but it is totally fine for your recommender to use whatever translation tools necessary to get it to the place where they're ready to submit. So there's lots of either formal or informal online translation tools available, and that is totally fine.
Oh, sensitive subject. What if your recommender asks you to write the recommendation for them?
That's a really tough one, and we know that that happens from time to time, and it puts you in a really challenging position, but it is an absolute no-no. You have to make sure that you do not have a hand in writing your letter of recommendation. You definitely don't want to be in a position where you're having to speak about yourself and assess yourself. You're just not going to be able to do that in the same high impact way that someone who's really in a position to do that on a day-to-day basis is able to. And so my best advice there is you just have to move along. If your recommender truly isn't willing to take the reins and write that letter on their own, I think it's probably time to move along to your next candidate for writing your letter of recommendation. That's why it's also so important to leave yourself enough time. This process can take a while and be iterative. So I would say at least a month between the time that you make the ask and when those recommendations are due, just to give yourself enough runway to make sure that that you're in the best possible shape.
Yeah, that makes sense. Sounds like these can be tricky conversations sometimes.
For sure.